right, so welcome everyone. All of you returning, well, hello. And those that are new, I see a lot of new names this evening. My name is Anita Thompson, and I own Art Venture Workshops. I'm a mobile-based art business, and I teach for about 20 different libraries and counting. So it is so much fun, and I'm so happy that you're all here this evening. This evening's colored pencil Toucan is sponsored by Feasterville Library. And I think Chrissy is not feeling well this evening. She is the adult services librarian. So unfortunately, she won't be here. But this is being recorded for anyone that is interested in redoing it and sharing it as well. So we are going to get started. Also, if you have any questions or you need me to slow down, you can feel free to put those in the chat. I'm always looking at the chat. Since I'm on my iPad, it's right in front of me, so I can see the questions pop up. And hello, Renee, welcome. I'm just going to copy the supplies one more time.
Hey, look, I'm a loser. Look.
Okay. In the chat. Okay. Very good. All right. I'm just gonna make sure everybody's muted.
You can use this and I can look at it on my cell phone when I look.
Okay, so we are going to get started. Okay, so, oh, let's see, we can't seem to print pics out. It says no preview available. Oh, so if you can, what I'll do is I'm going to, so actually I have a copy of my picture this evening because second time in a row, I have not been able to find what I'm teaching this week. My space is horrible. We're actually reorganizing this weekend. It is pretty crazy. So I looked for it for an hour and I know it's tiny, so I know it's somewhere, but it's probably in between somewhere. So if this helps, you can take a picture. Maybe I should like take my hand out of there, right? There we go. Maybe that's a little better. If anybody's interested in taking a picture right there. So, okay. If anybody else needs a picture, let me know, but I'm going to have that right. Awesome. Thanks, Renee. Cool, cool. Okay, so we're going to start off with our pencil. As most of you know, we create the basic shapes first, and then we get into detail afterward. And we kind of spruce everything up after we do our basic shapes. So also, just to remind you, you need to make sure you're on speaker view so that you are seeing this large, so that you can actually see, so that you don't see the other squares of people. I think that's how it works, at least I know on my device, on my iPad. Okay, so we're going to start at the top left of our page, and we're going to start off with drawing very lightly as we normally do. And I always draw darker so that you can see it on Zoom. So we're going to start off at the top, but at the top left, going down a little bit, we're going to do the whole shape of the toucan's bill. So we're going to start off right here, and we're going to kind of start to swoop around. I may make that a little bit less downward. Feel like I kind of started you guys off with it going really downward. Hold on just a sec. Okay. And also we want to make sure that we have enough room for the head. So sorry about my fumbling here. So what we're doing now is we are creating the shape of the bill. And then we are creating the shape of the toucan. And that's going to go toward the edge of the right side of your paper. So you should have a shape like this. And then we're going to continue back over here to the bill. And we're going to do the separation first. So we're going to go toward the edge. And then back towards the right side. And for now, we're just going to leave it about right there. And then we're going to draw the detail that is on the bill, the blue stripe. And that blue stripe is going to curve a bit. It's going to curve in this area and then turn inwards a bit to curve again. Oh, Fiona's coming on. Just copy this in the chat. Hi, Fiona. We're just getting started and I'm just copying the supplies here in the chat so that you can see them. You're welcome. Great to see you again. Even if I can't exactly see everyone. Okay, so what we've done is we've done a basic shape here of our toucan. We've started with the top of the bill. And then we've also started to add the blue stripe. And now we're going to stay right here to the right side. And we're going to kind of create the rest of the shape around the eye. So coming over here, we're going to come up top and we're going to curve slightly down like this. I'm going to go a little bit closer so you can see a little more of my detail. There we go. Let me see if less light is better for you all. Maybe that. Okay. All right, so now we're going to come back over here to the top and we're going to create the area around the eye. So the shape, the orangey shape around the eye. Just going to add a little more light here. There we go. So this shape is going to be the length of the top part of the bill. So it's sort of a circular shape. Actually not circular, it's more oval. And then when we get to the bottom, it's going to be a little bit straight across, but slightly curved inward. Do some adjusting here. There we go. Okay, so are we all good so far to keep going? Awesome. Okay. And then we're going to go back into the eye area and we're just going to create that circle for the eye. And that's going to go sort of in the middle of that whole shape, but a little bit closer towards this part of the toucan. Sorry, I just want to check the chat. I thought I saw somebody. Okay. All right. And then once you have the outer part, you then want to draw the black area inside, going very carefully around. And then you're going to draw in the highlight a bit, which is kind of tiny. It's going to sort of be like a rainbow shape. And this is the part where we will not be coloring in the eye. And I'm just going to show this a bit closer so you can see. So that is what you want to have on the top part of inside the eye. Just going to erase some of these other lines as not to confuse you. Okay, so now we're going to go over here back to the bill. So right underneath, we're going to create the outside part of the bill. So we're going to create this shape here. So we're going to go inward just a little bit and then swing outward like so. So you're going to have a shape like this. And then we're going to create that bill like this. And you want to make sure to kind of swing back and get the curved part where it actually, oh, mic is stuck in the way. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Thank you, Renee. Sorry, Michael. I was looking up at one point. All right. I think we got everybody in. Awesome. So you're going to curve this around and then it's going to get thinner and longer. Mine needs to be a little less wider here. Basically, it's going to start to kind of curve inward about right here, and then it's going to go downward a bit. Meanwhile, you may have to adjust the top one. Because right at the end here, you want this part to kind of go downward, but it's going to flatten out a bit, like so, like that. Oops. And then you can come back toward the edge and you're going to have it curve and then make sure that the top part of the beak is larger than the bottom one. So if that isn't the case for yours, you want to go back and readjust the width. So it should look something like this. And then once we have that, we're going to go back to underneath the beak, right where the separation of the orange part and the black part is. That's just so you know where to kind of add the rest of the body. And that just goes downward like so. And then what we're going to do is adjust a little bit of the top if you need to. No, I need to make this part just a little bit higher, his head, a little bit flat. So it goes up, a little bit flattens out, and then goes back towards the right side of your paper. And then at this point, you can readjust your lines by erasing any extra lines, because our last part is just going to be the white area in the middle, sort of his belly area. So again, that is going to start right underneath his bill where the black area is here. You're going to go swoop down and then curve here, almost like a bib. Nature gave him a bib. Not really. And then you'll come around and curve it a bit so that you now have a shape like that. And then when you're finished with that, you can then start to lighten up the rest of your lines with your eraser so that we can start using our colored pencils. So the reason we do that is because we don't want the graphite and the pencil to show through as much as possible. All right. Oh, I forgot to have you do one more part. I just realized at the end of his nose here, we've got the blue sort of teardrop shape. So let's go and take care of that right now. Like so. And now we have a toucan. Now we need to make him colorful. So we are going to start with his eye. So we need the black. So we need our black colored pencil here. And I'm going to go really close in now so that you can see what I'm doing here. So we're going to trace around the outside and then also trace on the inside as well. I just realized I think my camera is picking up that I'm too close. It keeps buzzing out. Okay, so first thing is tracing around the bigger circle. And then the second inside the middle of the eye. And you're also going to trace around the highlight because you're then going to fill in that whole area with your black. So when you're finished with creating your lines around both of those shapes, you then want to color in the center of the eye. Now he looks like he's staring at us. Okay, now, once you do that, we're going to continue on with our black for right now. And we're going to actually go and create the line for in the middle of his beak. So you're going to take your black and you're going to shade, or I'm sorry, not shading, not yet. You're going to trace that line in between the top beak and the bottom beak. So you've got a separation there. And later on, we'll go back and we'll make parts of it a little darker so that it looks like it's three-dimensional. But for now, we're just going to have that separation there with our black. And we're also going to trace the blue area on the beak. So we're going to trace that in black. And then also right underneath the blackish blue design that's like right under his, it's not really his chin, because I don't know, do they have chins? I'm not sure. The edge of the bottom beak, we'll say that. And then, so basically now we're going to be tracing with our black. We still have our black. We're going to go up to his head, but the area in between the eyes, or the shape of the eye. So we're going to trace this black. And then also underneath the area of his belly. So I'll say that again in case anybody missed it while they were, doing some of the other things. You want to trace this area here, just this curved line. And then we're going to trace his belly area, or what I call the bib area. You're going to trace that in black. And it doesn't have to be real dark right now. We just want to trace over the graphite. So now you should be able to see the sections where I've traced. And then we've got one more, and we're going to come here to the end of his beak, and we're going to trace the blue teardrop shape on the end of his beak, like so. Okay, and then we are going to go to his eye first. And with his eye, we're going to use light blue or sky blue if you are using Crayola. I keep forgetting to look what it is in Prismacolor. Any kind of sort of lightish blue if you're using Prismacolor, or any other colored pencils. And basically we're going to be shading in that area of the eye around the black. So what we want to do first is shade lightly. And I'm going to go in really close for this. Sorry that I kind of flew towards my drawing quickly. So we're going to do first a light shading with the blue, and then you're going to concentrate around the edge inside the eye with the blue, and you're going to make that darker by pressing on it, by pressing on or applying more pressure, I should say. So it's going to look like there is a darker rim around the eye. And right now this is just with your light blue. And we're going to go back to that eventually. But what we want to do now is, while we have our blue, we're going to come on over to the beak, to the left side of the beak. And we're going to use this blue, and we're going to start shading. And as you can see from the original, it's lighter in color up at the top of the teardrop shape. It's very light in this area, and then it gets darker, and we're going to be applying black and also dark blue, regular blue in that area. So with that in mind, your shading is going to look a little something like this. And I'm just going to do it real quickly, just so you can get an idea that there should be, you should leave that center area. Sorry, I keep kind of hitting everything tonight. This area, the white of your paper for now. I'm just going to grab something to put my colored pencils in, because I keep almost knocking them off my desk. Much better. So that's our first layer. And as most of you know who've been with me for a while, but this is also for those that are new tonight, we layer colored pencils, starting out lightly and then going darker as we add more color. And then sometimes just going darker with a single color. So for right now, we're now going to take this color again, and we're going to go darker, applying more pressure in this area. And then we're going to do that up at the top as well. I'm going to go a little bit further out so you can kind of see. what I'm working on here. There we go. So what I'm doing now is I'm going darker so that the white of the paper is no longer showing in the blue areas. So with that dot in the middle that I asked you, or the space in the middle, I should say, that I asked you to leave, the white of the paper, we're just going to leave that for now. And we'll go back to lightly shade over it so that it still looks like the lightest part on the beak, but it's not the white of the paper. So you should have a shape that looks like that. And then when you are done with that, you're going to take your blue and you're going to start applying pressure on top of the light blue that you just did. And you're going to do that at the tip. And we're looking for a gradient. So we're looking for this to be darker at the tip here and darker around the edge toward the top here as we're going around. And then also right toward the bottom portion of that white area that I asked you to kind of leave white for now. And so what you're doing is you are applying enough pressure so that, I'm showing this up close, you're getting a nice filled in area with no white showing. And then you're going to continue around the bottom area along the edge of this teardrop shape. This is with your dark blue. And once you do that, you're going to apply some black on top of those colors toward the tip of that shape, and then also going along the edge to the left side or towards the top of that teardrop shape. And then again, just adding to the gradient in the middle here. Now, if it's getting a little too dark or it looks like it's not blending, you can go back and add some more light blue to kind of burnish that. I'm going to move my light. I think it was reflecting a little too much. So it should look a bit like this. And when you are ready, we're going to come back to our old friend light blue. And we're going to make a gradient inside the white area that we left so that the lightest part is sort of, I'm going to show this up close. So it's going to be like that. So you can see that the white part is surrounded by a little bit darker of the light blue. So I apply a little bit more pressure, but I'm making a gradient in a circular fashion. the white part being the lightest. And then I go in a circle or an oval shape and make that a little bit darker with my coloring. And then I go a little bit darker around that. So it's like I'm making a gradient around that, and it's going to make it look very natural. And then you can go into the center, the white part, and lightly shade it over so that you should get an effect that looks like this. So again, what I did was I went over everything in the light blue, but very, very softly and slowly. And then you may have to go back with your regular blue around it and add some around so that it looks more even. So I'm just lightly adding my regular blue to the rest of it. And I'm going to call that section done. And then before we get to the rest of our toucan, we actually want to do the outer part of it, the background. So if you look at the background, we've got some white spaces kind of around it. And around the bill, we go a little bit darker, but everything is really used with a light yellow green, it's called. So if you've got like an apple green, or if you don't have a yellow green, you can use yellow and then green on top. But basically, you're going to be, whoops, move this. You're going to be shading from left to right and leaving spaces almost like kind of like ovals. And you can choose not to do that if you want. I just did it for interest. Thought it was kind of interesting. So basically, let me see if you can see this. I'm going to show this a little more up close. So what I'm doing is, as I'm shading, I'm leaving space, leaving the white of the paper in sort of oval shapes, but I'm going to go back and lightly shade over them again, just like we did with the blue here on the end. And then I like to shade around the entire toucan, sort of outlining him with the green on the outside. So going a little bit darker, as if he has a sort of like a green light around him, I guess. And going to trace him or outside of him with the green. Let me move this so you can see my entire thing now. There we go. So basically, we're doing the background for right now. And what we've done is we started shading up toward the left side, left top. But now we want to trace our toucan in green, or at least the outside line. And then once you've done that, you can start to do some shading. Oops, sorry about that. Looks like I bumped my camera again. So again, if you want to do for interest, I was kind of thinking that this was, you know, he would be in a leafy background, you know. So I just thought that it would be kind of interesting. I've seen this in photographs where when a photograph is taken of an animal, I guess sometimes the background is blurred. So that's kind of was my thinking of doing this way. We are going to add some yellow to this later on. And so you can see that I'm shading left to right. And this is just kind of the first layer. And I really only make those absence of shapes, or I should say the sort of I'm trying to say not the circular shapes, kind of making the circular shapes on the left side in the background here. But then as it goes down towards the bottom, I just fill in that color. And again, this is with the yellow green. So it looks pretty rough right now, but I want to go back and change direction when I'm filling in the color. So basically what I've done is I've gone from left to right. And now I'm going to go diagonally and lightly shade. And that's how you get a filling of that color without making it too much darker yet. Now, if you want to make it a little darker, definitely want to go back, around the toucan and make it a little darker. And if you don't want it to be kind of sketchy, if you want it to be more solid, you can absolutely go back and add more pressure. I liked my background to be a little bit sketchy, still being able to see the white of the paper a bit, but kind of making that outline the outline near the toucan. And just take your time. And then going to the right side here. Sometimes I like to kind of rotate my paper around as I'm coloring. So again, I'm just kind of refilling in the background with just a little more pressure, but also I changed direction so that I could fill in the little white patches of the paper without making it get darker, or at least more solid. I should probably say that, more solid. I kind of want to keep it a bit sketchy. Sounds so funny. My toucan background is sketchy. And you can go back later and, add some more coloring to it. But we just kind of wanted a little bit of a nice, nice green background. Again, maybe highlighting around the entire shape just by creating like a darker line, like a border almost. Okay, and then we want to go back into the toucan now that we have the background a bit laid out. So the next color that we want is going to be picking up our light blue again. And we're going to be adding that to underneath this dark area, this dark section of the toucan. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go right underneath and create that light blue area that is really a shadow. And it's kind of going to look a little bit like this. And we're going to leave it like that for now as we continue on with this blue. And we're actually going to color in blue this whole area and this area as well. And so the way we're going to do that, so again, thinking like a gradient, like what we did here. The top part of this section is going to be lighter, and then it's going to get darker as it goes down toward the beak. So again, you're going to press harder towards the bottom part of the beak here. So it should look like that. See how this is a little bit darker, and you can even go a little darker. And then it gets lighter as it goes upward. And then the other section, you're going to do the same thing, and you're going to leave the highlight to the right side of the shape. So I'm kind of going in a circle, or again, an oval of where that highlight would be. And again, I'm going to show that up close. So that's what you want to mimic with this light blue. And then we are going to grab our regular blue, and we're going to do the same thing that we did in the teardrop area. We're going to go over the light blue with our regular blue, and you're going to press hard on this area, and you're also then going to outline on either side, even though we already outlined that in black. So again, you're making a gradient, which we're going to add black to the bottom part again. So I'm showing this up close just so you can see how to do that gradient. You can see that the top part here is lighter. So we just used our light blue for that. And then to make the other parts darker, we go over them with our blue. And that's what you see happening here. So I've just taken my regular blue and pressed harder into the light blue and made it darker, but left the top part here uncolored with just the light blue. I hope I'm not over explaining myself. I feel like I'm doing that a lot this week. So if I am, and you need clarification, or you need me to stop talking, let me know. I have been creating a lot of art over the last 3 months for the programs, and by now I get burnt out and kind of silly. So I apologize. I was saying something to my husband today, and he said, "What are you trying to say?" And I can't even remember what it was. It was this morning. So I had not had coffee yet, and I had only had 4 hours of sleep because I'm still getting used to going back to a full night's sleep. So I wasn't making much sense. So if I'm not making as much sense, let me know or ask me to clarify. So once you have that area with the regular blue, you're again going to take your black and go over the darkest part, which would be towards the edge of the going down towards the top part of the beak. And so just adding a little bit layer of black on there just to give it that pop of darkness that we need. And we're going to do the same thing in the other area. And this is going to be very dark, most of this area. You're going to use your black and a combination again of your dark blue or regular blue. If you've got navy blue and you're using that, that's okay too. So basically what I'm doing is applying more pressure with the black, but at first I'm just going over the blue with a little more pressure. And I'm just going to kind of show you what I'm doing. I'm not finished with kind of coloring that in, but I wanted to show you the most pressure should be right here at the bottom of the beak. And then again, so we're kind of creating a gradient. This is how you create a gradient in colored pencil. Is you go slowly and you build up the color. And then you can go over the white part very lightly again. This is with your black. And if you need to add a little more of your blue back in, sometimes I go over it again with my light blue, just to kind of give it a bluish sheen, if you will. And then I like to redefine that area by taking my black and just going around the line again. So I'm going to show that up close. Okay, and we're going to get into the orange. So actually, before we do anything, we are going to grab our yellow. So I mentioned yellow. You can choose golden yellow as well, depending on how bright you want your beak and the belly area. So I actually use both a golden yellow and yellow. Let me go grab my yellow actually. I start off with yellow. And if you don't have golden yellow, that's okay because we can go over that very lightly with some orange. So grab a yellow. It can be, like I said, regular yellow. And then I forgot to add in, if you have a golden yellow, you can grab that as well. If you don't, no worries. So we just want our yellow pencil for right now. And first we're going to go up to the eye area and we're going to make that yellow. And you can press on it in order to fill in the whole area. So with this yellow, we're not doing a gradient right now. You want to fill in the white area with yellow. You know, being very careful going around the eye as not to smudge it. So you want that to be a nice yellow. And when you are done with that, you're going to take your yellow and you're going to start coloring in the, like I said, what I call the bib area. And we are going to do a gradient with this. And what we're going to do is our brightest part with the yellow, meaning that we are applying a lot of pressure so that it's a nice yellow, is going to be around the border, but inside the border of the bibbed area. And I'm doing the darkest part right now so that you can see that. And then we're going to create the gradient with the yellow. And then we'll go back with golden yellow or orange. So these two areas are the parts so far that are the brightest yellow. And when you're finished there, before we continue with the gradient, I want to ask you to also fill in the bottom beak with this yellow. You can hear my, something is rattling against my desk. Or it probably needs to be tightened at this point. Like I mentioned, I've done a lot of art at this desk in the last 2 months. And I'm pretty sure I've loosened up the desk. So sorry for the rattling. If you can, I'm pretty sure you can probably hear that. So the parts that are yellow so far are around the eye, around the left bottom and side of inside the sort of the belly and underneath, and the bottom of the beak. And then we are going to go to the top of the beak, but that will be a bit of a gradient when we get to the top of the beak, or I should say, we're going to leave the top part of the beak a highlight, so the white of the paper. So I'm going to kind of do this now as you're all probably finishing up the other areas. So what I'm doing right now is filling in the top part of the beak, and I'm going to show this up close. So basically what you want to do is you want to leave a white highlight at the top of the beak, and also right here, this little spot here in between where the orange area around the eye is. And then we're going to go back to the inside of the area where we started the yellow. And we're going to create a bit of a gradient by going back and lightly shading with our yellow from left to right, starting right underneath, but leaving a bit of a white area on the, I'll call it the belly area. And we are shading right against, or I should say coming from, the bright yellow area that we've already done. And we're making it a little bit, we're not making it as dark, or as, or I should say, as colored in as we did with the yellow, because we want to make this a gradient with the yellow. And then we're going to leave the white of the paper on the right side inside this area, and also at the top. So I'm going to again show this. So you see, this top is not filled in, and either is this with any color. Because we're going to add some light blue in there too. And now I'm just going over it in order to make the gradient work a little more. Telling you, this desk did not do this morning. It must, my desk has had it with me, I think. It's like, you know what? You've done enough art. And to that I say, never. But it definitely needs some maintenance. So again, what you want to do is make sure that that area is brighter or more filled in to the left with your yellow. And then as you're going around, very lightly with your yellow, and then you want to leave some white of the paper there. And when you are ready, you want to put your yellow aside. And this is where, if you have your golden yellow, you can pick up your golden yellow, and you're going to go back to where your yellow is on the right, on the left, sorry, on the left. And you're going to add some of this golden yellow right along there, because you want this to be just a little bit darker. It may not be too much of a difference for you as far as color wise, but it's nice to have. You're going to do the same thing inside the eye area, and you're going to go around the border, but again inside the border and around the outside of the eye with this golden yellow. So the idea is that we are making it a bit darker in those areas. I'm just going to show this up close. Now we are going to add orange, which is really going to bring it out. And then our last part will be obviously the blue area of the toucan. So again, if you have that golden yellow, you can do that. And add some of that to just the sort of darker area to make it a little bit darker yellow. And then sometimes I like to add it a little bit to the left side here as well, to that yellow. And then when you are finished that, we are going to pick up our orange finally. And we're going to go toward the area where the eye is. And you're going to take your orange and you're going to go around in circles around the edge of the eye, outside of it, obviously. I'm going to go closer now. Whoops. So that you can see. So going around the outside of the eye, and then also around the perimeter of this area as well. And what we're doing is we're shading around with the orange. And at the top, we're going to make kind of a shape like this. So you see that curved shape. And then we're going to fill in shading in that area. The darkest being at the top of that shape, and then going and shading just a little bit lighter along this area here. And we're going to do the same in this bottom corner with our orange. Again, making a gradient. And then you're going to go over the entire area with a light shading of your orange. So I'll say that again. So the areas that you want to be a little bit darker with the orange is we create kind of this circular line here, and then a little bit of a darker line, almost like a triangle in this section. We shade in the area over here and here, and then we lightly shade over everything with the orange. And then I like to kind of go back and go around the eye with the orange and extend that shading more than just against the the line around it. So I kind of extend it a bit so that you have a little something like that. And we're going to continue with that orange on the beak finally. And I'm going to show you what we want to do with the beak. So we're going to take that orange and we're going to draw some lines with that orange on top of our yellow. And those lines, first line is going to be a slightly curved line here that stops about right here on the beak. Our next line is going to be here, and this is just indicating where we're going to stop our shading. And then our final section with the orange, we're going to create a shape that goes like this. And we're going to be coloring in with orange this whole shape. So you can also outline the bottom of the beak so that your coloring will remain in those areas. So let's start off with the bottom beak. And you're going to be pressing as hard as you can to get a nice vibrant orange. And you want that yellow to shine through, and it will. So we're now coloring with this orange on top of the yellow. And you may have to, press on some parts for that orange to be a little more solid, but it's okay if the yellow's shining through because we do want that. So we're going towards the part of the beak that is towards the body. And you're going to really be pressing with your orange. You want this whole bottom part to be nice and vibrant and darker. And we'll go over a little bit with our red, but it is mostly with this orange that we have that color. And if everyone's okay with another 10 minutes, we'll be finished in probably about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. If not, if you have to go, this is being recorded. So just to let you know. Now, once we have that done, you can then take your orange and you're going to go into the yellow areas that I asked you not to go in yet. And you're just going to lightly shade with your orange. Again, the reasoning is you're creating a gradient. So I'm going to show that up close. So see, it looks like a gradient. We concentrated our color in this area first, and then we just very lightly, swiped a bit with our orange there. We're going to get to the top beak and lightly start to shade next to that top line, that top curved line that I asked you to create. It's going to look a little something like this. And then when you're done that, you're going to lightly shade, or medium shade, I should say, into that next area of that line, the curved line that I asked you to create, going towards the bottom part of the beak, or at least meeting the bottom part of the beak. So that should look like a medium shading, but we're going to darken up towards along the line of the mouth right there. And this is with your orange. And then again, when you're done with that, you guessed it, we're going to go into the rest of the yellow and do a very fine light shading of the orange. So if you're wondering how light or what that feels like, it should sort of feel like your hand is lightly, almost, it's not lifted up off of the paper, but it's kind of hovering just very slightly. Barely, but very slightly. So I'm trying to get you to think about like how light I want you to go. So you're applying a little bit of pressure, but not much at all. That's what that should feel like when you're doing the yellow area with your orange. And so you're going to get that. Yep. So the top of the beak is still white. Yes. Except we're going to come on over to the left. So that's a very good question. We're going to come to the left part and we're going to fill in a little bit of orange there. So this part here but we're going to leave the top part the white of the paper. And then the only other part we do is this corner here where it meets the eye. We just fill in a little bit of orange there, like shading. I'm going to shade this a little more. There we go. Okay, now we want to put our orange down. We're just going to grab our red so that we get a little bit of some darkness here. And we're going to take that red and we're going to go along the bottom of the beak on the inside. So again, this is with our red. And we're going to go along the bottom with that red. I like to do a little bit on top of the line, the curved line at the top of the beak, just towards where the teardrop shape is. I like to add a little bit of red there. And then also along where the two parts of the beak meet, I like to add a little bit of red right there as well. And if you want to add just a little bit of shading on top of the orange with this red, you can do that too. And then I like to go inside the beak one more time, the bottom portion, and just add a little bit of red on top of the orange on the bottom portion of it. Just to let it pop, give it that vibrancy. And then our final part is the blue, which is, we start off with our light blue. And we're going to go inside the belly area. And the parts that we're going to add the light blue is at the top where it meets with the eye area. So you're going to add a little bit of blue there. A little bit of shading. And then also around inside the border on the right side. So you're going on the right side and then you're going to go into on top of the yellow. So it's going to make it like a green. It's going to make it that kind of light green. You can do a little bit of shading as you go around. So it's got a very tropical feel now at this point. I like to do a little bit of shading into the white area along the border. Like so. And you're going to go back up into that upside down triangular area. Just make it a little bit darker with that blue on the inside. So I'm showing this up close. So I went back in with my light blue and just kind of made a triangle inside the triangular area. A little bit darker there. And then our final part is now we're going to, oh, let me back up my camera here. We're going to trace around the area that we're going to be coloring blue. This is with our light blue. So you're going to trace around the belly area and also the edge of your toucan. And then you're going to start shading from left to right. The whole area. You're going to get a little lighter towards the bottom of your toucan. So by that, I mean the bottom right corner. Again, thinking about a gradient, you're going to go lighter. So, oops, just realized I was out of the camera view here. Let me move up so you can see what I mean. So this bottom right corner that I'm touching now, I'm going light. But then as I go towards the rest, you're going to add some pressure. And again, we're going to think like a gradient. So once you fill in that area, you're going to go back and make parts of it a little bit darker, like around the edge of the toucan. Like so. And then the last part is we're just going to be adding some regular blue. It's going to look a little bit dark on top of it for the final layer and the texture. So again, what I'm doing is I'm kind of going around the areas a little bit darker with my blue. And when you are finished with that is when you're going to take out your regular blue and you're going to go on top and you're going to hit those areas that we just created that were a little bit more pressure. And at the top, like near his head, I like to leave a bit of that light blue showing. So I kind of create a line, a curved line, and leave the top of the head a space for the light blue, almost like a highlight. And then I go around, again, start to shade. So the other thing is you can add some black to this for the really darker areas, but I know we're about to close and end this program. So that's something that you can add on your own. And it's basically similar to what we did, or it's exactly what we did in the blue areas of the toucan, where we added, you know, in the darkest parts would be black to give it that nice dark richness. So parts that I'm doing right now that you could add that black to is exactly what I'm doing where I'm coloring. but then shading in the middle with the blue, kind of lightly in between those darker areas. So you can see that it's giving it that kind of nice overlay. And you can, it takes a little while to kind of build up that color, just like we did with the yellow and the orange. It takes maybe another layer. But you want to definitely lightly shade towards the bottom right corner of your toucan. This part is the lightest area of your toucan, at least on the blue. If you notice, what I'm doing is I'm coloring in circles. It's kind of hard to get used to if you're not used to it, because most of us, when we think of coloring with colored pencils, we think of going in a straight line or back and forth or up and down. But actually, coloring in circles allows you to cover more of your piece evenly. It's okay if you don't want to do it. Just putting that out there. That, and sometimes it looks really neat if you leave it kind of sketchy because you've got this, circular texture going on. But again, you don't have to. Just a suggestion on how I color. Yep, just a suggestion. So again, I'm going around to the darker areas with my blue, going over them again. And it's really along the edge, the border of the body, both on the inside and then here again on the outside. And then sometimes I like to go back again with the light blue and I burnish, what's called burnishing, basically taking a lighter color and making everything smoother by taking that lighter color and blending it on top of the darker color, and you kind of get a sheen to it. So that's going to look a little something like this. And that's really what I did for this piece, is after adding the dark blue, I went back with the light blue and filled in the spots of the paper that were still showing through. And then going in with black in the darkest areas. I did that when I was all finished. But that's about what he should look like. I'll just do one section with the black to show you, again. So I'm going to go right underneath here and outline a little. And then just color a little bit on top of the blue with the black. And you can see how it brings out, some nice darks, but it's a nice dark because we layered it with the blue. So that is our toucan. And I'm going to stop the recording.